Garrison Cole's calloused fingers worked the lathe with practiced precision. Metal shavings curled away from the spinning rod as he shaped what would become part of an industrial packaging machine. The familiar smell of cutting oil and hot metal filled his nostrils. A scent more comforting than the perfume that lingered in his empty house. "Hey Cole, 10 minutes till shift change," Jake called from across the shop floor. Garrison nodded without looking up. He finished the cut, measured the piece one last time, and logged the completion in the shop system. Perfect tolerances as always. If only life outside these walls could be measured and controlled as easily. The Louisville metal fabrication shop had been a sanctuary for 15 years. Here, things made sense. Metal behaved according to rules. Heat it, cool it, cut it right, it did what it was supposed to do. People were not like that he clocked out, nodded to a few co-workers, and walked to his truck. The October air carried the scent of fallen leaves and coming rain. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text message from Mason. "Dad, can I come over tonight?" "Mom's going out again." Garrison's jaw tightened. You type back quickly, "Of course. I'll pick you up at 6.3. Disappeared. Then, she says you have to come get me. Royce needs the car." Garrison took a deep breath. Of course Royce needed the car. Royce needed everything that was not his. On my way. The drive to Kendra's apartment took 20 minutes. He used to make this drive every day when they were married, back to the house they bought together. Now she lived in a complex on the east side of town with his son and a man who could not hold a job longer than he could hold a football. He parked in the visitor's spot and texted Mason. No need to go up and risk seeing her or Royce. But the apartment door opened before Mason could respond, and his son burst out. Backpack slung over one shoulder, a model airplane kit clutched in his hand. "Dad," 10-year-old Mason ran to the truck, his face splitting into a grin that made Garrison's chest ache. "Hey buddy," he reached across and pushed open the passenger door. "Got your homework?" "Yeah." Mason climbed in, tossing his backpack on the floor, and Mom said I can stay until tomorrow after school if he can drop me off. Garrison nodded, stealing a glance at the apartment. Kendra stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Even from this distance, he could see the impatience in her stance. She wore workout clothes, though Garrison knew damn well she had not been to an actual yoga class in months that he pulled away without acknowledging her. No point in it. "You hungry?" he asked Mason. "Starving. Can we get burgers?" "Sure thing." "Milner's?" "Yes." Mason bounced in his seat. With the good fries, Garrison felt something loosen in his chest. These moments, just him and his son, made everything else bearable. "Dad," Mason's voice was suddenly small. "Yeah buddy, Royce says I'm too old for model airplanes." Garrison's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "That's so. He said only babies play with toys. That I should be into sports and stuff. That airplane kit, that's engineering. Science takes patience and skill to put together." Garrison glanced at his son. "Nothing babyish about that." Mason smiled, running his fingers over the box. "That's what I thought." They ate burgers at Milner's. A local place Garrison had been going since he was a kid himself. Mason talked about school, about his science project on magnetic fields, about his friend Derek, who had gotten a new puppy. Not once did Mason mention Kendra or Royce, and Garrison did not ask. But he watched his son's face, noted the shadows under his eyes, the way he seemed to relax more with each mile that separated them from that apartment. Later, at home, they worked on the model airplane at the kitchen table. Garrison's house was nothing special, a modest 3-bedroom ranch he kept in the divorce, but it was clean, organized and safe. The backyard had a swing set he built himself and enough room for a game of catch. "Hammy the wing strut," Garrison said. Mason passed the tiny plastic piece. "Dad, why did Mom leave?" The question hit Garrison like a sucker punch. He kept his eyes on the model, carefully applying glue. "People change, buddy. Sometimes they want different things." "Does she not want me?" "No." Garrison's response was immediate and firm. "She wants you." "We both do." "Then why does not she act like it?" Garrison set down the wing, looking his son in the eye. What do you mean? Mason shrugged, suddenly interested in sorting the tiny screws. She's always going out, or Royce is over. And they fight a lot when they think I'm sleeping. Garrison absorbed this, filing it away alongside everything else he noticed. The missed parent-teacher conferences. The times Mason showed up without a proper lunch. The way his son's clothes seemed to get smaller without being replaced. You know, you can always call me, Garrison said. Anytime. For anything. I know. Mason smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. That night, after Mason went to bed, Garrison sat at his kitchen table with a legal pad. He wrote down dates, incidents, observations. It was not the first time he'd done this, but tonight felt different. Tonight, he started a new page titled Custody in the quiet of his kitchen with his son sleeping down the hall. Garrison Cole began planning his most important project yet. The first sign had been a text message reflected in the microwave door 6 months ago. Garrison had been heating up leftover stew, waiting for Kendra to come home from her supposed book club. The microwave's dark glass showed the reflection of her phone on the counter behind him, lit up with a message that no book club would ever send. Miss you already. Next time, let's try that thing we talked about. Garrison had stared at that reflection, watching the words fade as the screen went dark. He had not picked up her phone, had not confronted her. He simply finished heating his stew and gone to eat in the living room alone. The yoga classes that ran until midnight. The new clothes she never wore around him. The way she smiled at her phone and took it with her to the bathroom. That he was not stupid. But he was patient. And he had Mason to think about. The final break came on a Tuesday in May. Kendra had come home from work and announced she needed to find herself and was moving out. She was taking Mason. She said because Garrison worked too many hours and their son needed stability. As if she knew the meaning of the word, he asked only one question. Who is he? Her eyes had widened, then narrowed. Does it matter? I'd like to know who's going to be around my son. His name is Royce. He's a personal trainer at my gym. Garrison had nodded, absorbing the information without visible reaction. Inside, something hard and cold had formed. Not quite anger. Something more focused. Now, 6 months later, Garrison stood in his garage, organizing tools that were already perfectly arranged. The habit calmed him, helped him think. His phone rang. Kendra's number. Hello, Garrison. Her voice had that forced cheerfulness he knew meant she wanted something. I need to talk to you about Mason's birthday. He waited, saying nothing. I think we should have it at your place. The apartment complex does not allow parties in the common areas. And your backyard is better for the kids. Fine. And I want to invite a few of my friends too. Not just Mason's school friends and your boring work people. Garrison moved a screwdriver 1 centimeter to align perfectly with the others. It's Mason's day. Not yours. I'm his mother. My friends will not celebrate too. By friends, you mean Royce. A pause. He's part of Mason's life now, Garrison. You need to accept that. Garrison thought of the folder growing in his desk drawer. Documents. Recordings. Notes from Mason's teacher about missing assignments and tired eyes. Anything else? He asked. Yes, I need money for the cake and decorations. And Mason wants that new game system. I'll handle the cake and decorations. Already got his gift. Garrison glanced at the cabinet above his workbench. The one with the lock. Inside was a box, already wrapped. But it was not a game system. Whatever. Just make sure your place is clean. Royce is allergic to dust. The call ended. Garrison placed his phone down precisely on the corner of his workbench. Then, with deliberate calm, he walked to his office and opened the bottom drawer of his desk. Inside was a growing file. He added a note about today's call. About Kendra using Mason's birthday as a way to show off to her friends. About the implied criticism of his home. Next to the legal pad was a business card. Angela Wiestrom, family law attorney. He already had 3 consultations with her. The strategy was set. The evidence was mounting that he just needed one more piece. The birthday party would provide at point 3 days before Mason's birthday. Garrison left work early to meet with Angela Wiestrom. Her office sat above a coffee shop in the older part of town with brick walls and wooden floors that creaked. The documentation UVE provided is thorough, Angela said, peering at him over reading glasses. What are you sure about this timing? Using your son's birthday party as the moment to serve papers that's going to get messy. Garrison met her gaze without flinching. They made everything about Mason messy. His home life, his school work, his sense of security. He tapped the folder between them. This is not about making a scene. It's about having witnesses. Angela nodded slowly. The neighbors you mentioned. Delia Rowe, retired principal. Lives next door. She's seen how Kendra treats Mason when she drops him off. And my friend Tyrell has heard things at the gym where Royce works. And you believe they'll back up your claims if needed. They'll tell the truth. That's all I need. The attorney closed the folder. All right, I'll have the papers ready. But remember, once this starts, there's no going back. Kendra will fight dirty. She already has. Garrison stood, extending his hand. The difference is, I've been paying attention. On his way home, Garrison stopped at the party supply store. He filled a cart with decorations in Mason's favorite colors, blue and green. Space theme plates and napkins. A banner that read, Happy 10th birthday, Mason. He ordered the cake from Mary's Bakery, chocolate with buttercream frosting, decorated with planets and stars. As he loaded the supplies in his truck, his phone buzzed with a text. Need to bring Royce to help set up tomorrow. He's good with party stuff. Garrison did not respond. He drove home, unloaded the supplies, and began cleaning. The house was already tidy. Garrison was not one to let things get out of place. But he vacuumed again, wiped down surfaces, and made sure the backyard was perfect. The grass was cut, the grill was clean, and the picnic tables he borrowed from Tyrell were set up under the oak tree. The next day, the doorbell rang at exactly 11, an hour earlier than they agreed for setup. Garrison opened the door to find Kendra and Royce standing there, both wearing sunglasses despite the cloudy day. Royce had his arm draped possessively around Kendra's waist, his backward baseball cap and muscle shirt, making him look like an overgrown fraternity pledge rather than a man approaching 30. Yo, G-man, Royce said with a smirk. Ready to party? Garrison stepped back, allowing them entry without responding to the nickname. Kendra brushed past him, immediately scanning the living room with critical eyes. At least you cleaned, she muttered. Royce sauntered in, looking around as if appraising property he might buy. Not bad for a bachelor pad. Though that couch has got to go, am I right? He punched Garrison's arm as if they were friends. Garrison let the touch pass without reaction. The decorations are in the kitchen. Mason will be here at 1 with Delia. She's taking him for ice cream first. Who's Delia? Royce asked, following Kendra into the kitchen. The neighbor, Kendra said dismissively. Former school principal or something. She's got some weird attachment to Mason. She tutors him. Garrison corrected. Helps with his reading. Whatever. Mason's reading is fine. Kendra started unpacking the decorations. These are so boring, Garrison. I brought some better ones. She pulled out a bag filled with generic party supplies, nothing to do with space or Mason's interests. We reusing these. Garrison said firmly, placing his hand on the supplies he bought. Mason picked the theme. Kendra rolled her eyes, but did not argue. Instead, she turned to Royce. Babe, can you hang the banner? Garrison's probably too short to reach. Garrison stood 2 inches taller than Royce, a fact both of them knew. He said nothing, simply taking the banner and hanging it himself, precisely centered over the kitchen doorway. I need to finish setting up the grill, he said, heading for the back door. Oh, Royce can handle that. Kendra said quickly, he's the grill master at all our apartment get-togethers. It's my grill. Garrison said simply, and walked out. I in the backyard. He could hear them through the open kitchen window. Kendra's fake laugh. Royce's booming voice, making some joke at Garrison's expense. The sound of them moving around his kitchen, as if they owned it. He focused on preparing the grill, checking the propane levels, cleaning the grates one more time. From his pocket, he took out a small digital recorder and placed it under the picnic table, securing it with duct tape. Another went beneath the grill side shelf. The back door opened and Royce stepped out, 2 beers in hand. He offered one to Garrison. Thought you could use this, man. Dealing with the XCA not be easy. His smile did not reach his eyes. Garrison looked at the beer, then back at Royce. I do not drink when Mason's around. Royce shrugged. More for me then. Kid's not even here yet. He took a long swig from one bottle, then set the other on the grill side table. So listen about tomorrow. Kendra and I were thinking we'd take Mason to that new water park instead of him coming back here. Give you a break, you know. Garrison continued arranging charcoal. We already have plans. Come on, be flexible. Kid probably wants some excitement, not just sitting around making model planes or whatever boring shit you guys do. Garrison straightened up, meeting Royce's gaze directly for the first time. My son is coming here tomorrow, as agreed. If you have a problem with that, take it up with family court. Royce's smile faltered. Well, no need to get all legal, man. Just trying to help. I do not need your help with my son. The back door opened again and Kendra stepped out. What are you two talking about? Nothing important, Garrison said, turning back to the grill. I was just telling G about our water park idea for tomorrow. Royce said, walking over to put his arm around Kendra. But he's being kind of uptight about it. Kendra sighed dramatically. Garrison, we trying to co-parent here. That means flexibility. Co-parenting does not mean changing plans last minute. Garrison looked at his watch. Mason will be here in 30 minutes. Let's finish setting up. He brushed past them back into the house, feeling their eyes on his back. In the kitchen, he began arranging snacks and drinks on the counter. The wrapped box, his special gift, was hidden in his bedroom closet, ready for the right moment. The doorbell rang again. Garrison opened it to find Tyrell Jackson, his friend from high school days, standing there with a wrapped present. Hey, man, Tyrell said, stepping inside. Thought I'd come early to help set up. His eyes darted to the kitchen where Kendra and Royce were now arguing in hushed tones. Looks like I timed it right. Garrison nodded gratefully. Thanks for coming. No problem. Mason's a good kid. Tyrell lowered his voice. You still doing it today? Yes. Tyrell nodded, his expression serious. I got you back. The doorbell rang again. More guests. Parents from Mason's school. A few of Garrison's co-workers with their children. Delia Rowe arrived with Mason, who ran straight to Garrison for a hug. Dad, Delia, let me get 2 scoops. Garrison hugged his son tightly. Happy early birthday, buddy. Mason pulled back, his eyes scanning the decorated kitchen and living room. Wow, the space theme looks awesome. Kendra materialized beside them. Mason, honey, happy birthday. She pulled him into a hug that Mason only half returned. Hi, Mom. His enthusiasm noticeably dimmed. His eyes moved to Royce, who was lounging against the counter, still nursing a beer. Hi, Royce. Hey, sport. Royce gave a lazy wave. Got you something cool. Way better than these space decorations. Mason looked down. I like the space decorations. Dad knows it's my favorite. An awkward silence followed. Broken when Delia stepped forward. The cake looks beautiful, Garrison. Did Mary's bakery make it? Yes, Garrison confirmed. Mason's favorite. I thought red velvet was your favorite. Kendra said to Mason, frowning. That's your favorite, Mom. Mason said quietly. Mine's chocolate. More guests arrived. The house filled with the sound of children playing and adult chatting. Garrison moved through it all with quiet efficiency, making sure drinks were filled, Food was available, and everyone had what they needed. He watched as Royce inserted himself into conversations, bragging about his fitness clients, his college football days. Watched as Kendra flitted from group to group, laughing too loudly, touching Royce's arm possessively. But mostly he watched Mason. How his son seemed to shrink when Royce approached him. How his smile became forced when Kendra introduced him to her friends as my little man. The time for gifts approached. Garrison caught Tyrell's eye and nodded slightly. Tyrell returned the nod, positioning himself near the gift table. Everything was ready. The backyard hummed with conversation and children's laughter. Garrison manned a grill, flipping burgers with careful precision. Each patty received exactly the same amount of time on each side. He pressed them once and only once with the spatula. No more, no less. You always were a control freak in the kitchen, Kendra said, appearing at his elbow with an empty wine glass. Got any more of that cheap Chardonnay? Garrison pointed with the spatula, cooler by the table. She lingered, watching him work. Mason seems to be having fun. Garrison glanced across the yard where Mason was showing his space encyclopedia to two classmates. His son's face was animated, his hands gesturing excitedly as he pointed out pictures of distant galaxies. He's a good kid, Garrison said. Our kid, Kendra, corrected an edge in her voice. Though you act like you're the only parent sometimes. Garrison flipped another burger. I'm not the one who moved him away from his home. Kendra's face hardened. It was my home too, Garrison, a home where I felt invisible. We're not doing this now. Garrison said quietly, not at Mason's party. Fine. Kendra tossed her hair back. But this whole perfect dad routine, everyone sees through it. She walked away, her gait slightly unsteady from the wine. Garrison watched her join a group of her friends, women he did not know, who arrived with bottles of wine and loud voices, paying little attention to the children. Royce emerged from the house, carrying a tray of empty plates. He made a show of helping clean up, announcing loudly. Gotta keep the place tidy, right, G. Mason stepped dad to the rescue. Several guests looked uncomfortable. Delia Rowe, sitting in a nearby table, raised her eyebrows. Garrison removed the last burgers from the grill, shut off the propane, and began cleaning the grates. From the corner of his eye, he saw Kendra approach with a broom. Honey, she called to Royce, her voice carrying across the yard. Can you help Garrison clean up? This is your place too now. The yard went quiet. Mason, halfway across the lawn, froze. His eyes darted from his mother to his father, his face flushing with embarrassment. Garrison felt a cold stillness settle over him. He continued cleaning the grill, as if he had not heard. Royce swaggered over, taking the broom from Kendra. Sure thing, babe. I got this. He began sweeping with exaggerated motions, coming unnecessarily close to where Garrison stood. Teamwork makes the dream work, right, G. Garrison said nothing. He finished with the grill, closed the lid, and walked past Royce to where Mason stood, still frozen in place. Ready for cake, buddy? Garrison asked, his voice calm and steady. Mason nodded, relief washing over his face. Yeah, Dad. Together they walked to the picnic table where the space-themed cake waited. Garrison lit the candles with steady hands while the guests gathered around. He led them in singing happy birthday, his eyes never leaving his son's face. Mason closed his eyes, made a wish, and blew out all 10 candles in one breath. Everyone clapped. When Mason opened his eyes, he was smiling at his father. What did you wish for? Royce called out. Do not tell, Kendra said quickly, or it will not come true. Mason's smile faltered slightly. I see a not say. Smart kid, Tyrell said, clapping Mason on the shoulder. Keep that wish to yourself. Garrison began cutting the cake, serving Mason the first piece of corner with extra frosting just as his son liked. He moved methodically around the table, making sure every child got a piece before the adults. When he offered a piece to Royce, the younger man shook his head. Nah, watch my macros, man. Not let the abs go for sugar. He patted his stomach and winked at Kendra, who giggled. As people ate cake, Garrison slipped away to his bedroom. He retrieved the hidden gift box and placed it among the others on the gift table. No one noticed except Tyrell, who gave an imperceptible nod. Present time. Kendra announced when most of the cake was gone. She began herding people toward the gift table, positioning herself right next to it, as if the gifts were from her alone. Mason sat in the chair of honor, grinning as guests handed him presents. He opened each one carefully, genuinely thanking each giver. A basketball from his friend, Derek. Science books from Delia. Action figures from classmates. Royce stepped forward with a large box wrapped in metallic paper. This one, S for me and your mom, sport. Top of the line. Mason unwrapped it to reveal an expensive gaming system, the one everyone at school had been talking about. Wow. Mason said, his eyes wide. Thank you. Set it up for him. Babe, Kendra prompted Royce. Show him how it works. Royce took the box from Mason's hands. Let me get this going for you. You're gonna love it. As Royce began unboxing the system, Garrison watched his son's face. There was excitement there, but also uncertainty, as if Mason was not sure how to feel about this gift from the man who had moved into his mother's life. When Royce had the system partially assembled, he picked up a game controller and began demonstrating. This button is for jump. This one for attack. See, I'm already level 8 on my system at home. Can I try? Mason asked, reaching for the controller. Hold up, buddy. Let me show you the special moves first. Royce pulled the controller away, continuing to play. Watch and learn. Mason's shoulders slumped slightly. Other children gathered around, watching Royce play rather than Mason enjoying his own gift. Garrison stepped forward. There are more presents, Mason. Tyrell picked up a box and handed it to Mason. This one, S from your dad. It was a model rocket kit. The advanced one Mason had been eyeing for months. Dad, Mason's face lit up. The Saturn V, with real launch capabilities, will build it together, Garrison promised, and launch it at the park. That's so cool. Mason jumped up to hug his father. Roy snorted. A model rocket. Kind of old school, is not it? It's what he wanted. Garrison said simply. The gaming system is what all the kids want, Kendra interjected. Right, Mason. Mason looked trapped. I like both, he said diplomatically. Garrison nodded to Tyrell, who reached for the final box on the table, the plain one with Mason's name and Garrison's handwriting. One more. Tyrell said, handing it to Mason. Mason took the box, looking curiously at his father. This was not their usual routine. Normally, Garrison gave him just one gift, something special they discussed. Open it. Garrison said quietly. Mason pulled off the wrapping paper to reveal a simple cardboard box. He lifted the lid and frowned at the contents of a folder, a flash drive, and what looked like official documents. What is it? He asked. Garrison knelt beside his son. It's your future, Mason. It's you coming home. Kendra stepped forward. What are you talking about? What is this, Garrison? Garrison stood, facing his ex-wife directly. It's a custody filing. Evidence. Statements from teachers. Video clips of how Roy treats Mason. Recordings of you talking about our son as a burden. The backyard went deadly silent. Even the children sensed the tension, huddling together near the cake table. You insane, Kendra hissed. You see not do this. Roy stood up, abandoning the gaming system. What the hell, man? This is a kid's party. Yes, Garrison said calmly. It is. And these people, he gestured to the guests, have all seen how you two behave around my son. How you use him. How you belittle him. That's a lie. Kendra said, her voice rising. We great parents. Tell him Roy S. Roy S. puffed up his chest. Yeah, man. I'm better for the kid than you are. At least I'm teaching him to be a man, not building toy planes. Delia Rose stepped forward, holding up her phone. I have video of you taking Mason's toys away, Mr. Madden. Of you making fun of his space books and calling him names when you thought no one was looking. His face paled. You've been spying on us. That's illegal. No, Delia said calmly. It's observation in a public place. At the school pickup line. At the grocery store. I'm a mandated reporter, young man. I take the emotional welfare of children very seriously. Kendra turned to the other guests, her face contorting. This is ridiculous. Garrison is trying to poison all of you against me because he can't not move on. Tyrell cleared his throat. Kendra. 3 weeks ago, you were at O'Malley's bar telling everyone who would listen that. And I quote, Mason is Garrison's problem. Not mine. You said you were only keeping him to stick it to your ex. At least 10 people heard you. Guests began murmuring. Parents pulled their children closer. Kendra's friends slipped away toward the house, sensing the implosion. You set me up. Kendra said, her voice shaking as she glared at Garrison. You planned this whole thing to humiliate me. No, Garrison replied evenly. I planned this to protect my son. The humiliation is all you redoing. Mason stood beside his father, clutching the model rocket kit to his chest. His eyes were wide, darting between the adults. Mason, Kendra said, forcing a smile. Honey, your father is just confused. You love living with me and Royce, do not you? Tell everyone how happy you are. Mason looked down at his shoes. I want to go home, he said in a small voice. We're going home, Kendra said sharply. Right now. Come on. She reached for his arm. He meant his real home, Delia said. With his father, you stay out of this, you old bat. Royce snapped. Enough, Garrison said, his voice cutting through the chaos. Mason, go with Delia for a few minutes. I need to talk to your mother and Royce. Mason nodded, relief evident on his face as he went to Delia's side. She put a protective arm around him and led him into the house. The party was effectively over. Parents began gathering their children, making quick, awkward goodbyes. Tyrell stayed, positioning himself near Garrison. 2 of Garrison's co-workers lingered as well, sensing their friend might need support. When only a small group remained, Garrison faced Kendra and Royce in the center of the yard. The hearing is scheduled for next Tuesday, he said. You'll be receiving official notification from my attorney tomorrow. You think any judge is going to take a kid from his mother? Kendra laughed bitterly. You're delusional, Garrison. Maybe in the past, you'd be right. But things change when there's evidence. When there are witnesses. Witnesses to what? Royce demanded us being normal parents. Witnesses to neglect, Garrison said, to emotional abuse, to putting your relationship drama above my son's well-being. Kendra's face twisted with rage. You planned all of this, recorded us without permission, turned our friends against us. I did not need to turn anyone against you. You did that yourselves. Garrison gestured to the half-abandoned party. Everyone here saw how you two behave, how you treat Mason like an afterthought. This is not over, Royce threatened, stepping closer to Garrison. Not by a long shot. Tyrell moved forward, his presence a silent warning. Royce hesitated, then backed down. Get off my property, Garrison said quietly. Both of you. Fine, Kendra spat. But we retaking Mason. No, Garrison said. He's staying here tonight, as was already agreed. You not keep my son from me. I'm not. You'll see him at the hearing. And after that, according to whatever schedule the court decides, Kendra looked like she might explode. Her face flushed, hands trembling. You're going to regret this, Garrison. I swear to God, the only thing I regret, Garrison said, is not doing it sooner. Royce put his arm around Kendra. Come on, babe. Let's go. We'll handle this with our own lawyer. They stalked out through the side gate, not bothering to take the gaming system they brought. The remaining guests watched them go in silence. When they were gone, Tyrell clapped Garrison on the shoulder. You okay, man? Garrison nodded. I need to check on Mason. He found his son in the kitchen with Delia. Mason was helping her clean up, his face serious but composed. "Hey, buddy," Garrison said gently. "You rewrite." Mason looked up. "Did Mom and Royce leave?" "Yes." "Good." Mason sat down the plate he was holding. "Dad, am I really coming home?" Garrison knelt in front of his son. "That's the plan, but might take some time. There will be meetings and a judge has to decide." "Will I have to talk to the judge?" "Maybe." "Would that be okay?" Mason thought for a moment, then nodded. "I can tell the truth. That's all anyone will ask of you." Delia watched them with sad eyes. "Your father's doing the right thing, Mason, even though it's hard." "I know." Mason looked at his father. "Can we still build a rocket?" Garrison felt something inside him on not slightly. "Of course we can. We'll start tomorrow." Mason smiled. A genuine smile that reached his eyes. "And can we have more cake? The party kind of got weird before I could get seconds." Garrison laughed. "A rare sound." "Absolutely. Cake for dinner. Just this once." As Mason went to get plates, Delia touched Garrison's arm. "You've done well today, but be prepared. Kendra will not go down without a fight." "I know," Garrison said, "but neither will I." The Sunday after the party, Garrison sat at his kitchen table with Angela Wistrom. Mason was in the backyard testing small parts of his model rocket under Tyrell's supervision. "The filing has been submitted," Angela said, organizing papers into a folder. "Judge Emmett Henderson will be presiding. He's fair. Tends to look at evidence rather than defaulting to maternal custody." Garrison nodded. "And the recordings? Admissible. Kentucky is a one-party consent state for recordings. As long as you were part of the conversation, you had every right to record it." She tapped a document. "The videos from Delia Rowe were taken in public spaces. Also admissible." "What about Kendra's counterarguments?" "She'll say I planned this to embarrass her." Angela gave him a level look. "Did you?" "I planned it to protect my son," Garrison said firmly. "The embarrassment was a side effect of her own actions." "Then that's what we'll argue." Angela checked her watch. "The hearing is Tuesday at 9 a.m. Wear you good suit. Be calm. Factual and respectful no matter what Kendra or her attorney says." "I understand." Angela watched him for a moment. This was months in the making, was not it? The evidence collection. The documentation. Yes. Why did you wait so long? Garrison looked out the window at Mason, who was carefully measuring angles on a piece of the rocket. "I needed to be sure. To have enough evidence that there would be no doubt. Mason does not need to be shuttled back and forth while the courts decide who's telling the truth." Angela nodded. "Smart. Thorough." She gathered her papers. "Just like I'd expect from you." After she left, Garrison went through the house, straightening things that were already straight, organizing what was already in order. The habit brought calm control. His phone buzzed with a text from a number he did not recognize. "This is Royce. Got your hashtag from K's phone. We need to talk man to man. Meet me at O'Malley's tonight. 8 p.m. Just us." Garrison stared at the message, then typed back. "Whatever you have to say can be said in core.3. Then, afraid to face me without your bodyguard friend. Thought you were tougher than that." Garrison did not respond. Instead, he took a screenshot of the message and emailed it to Angela. Then he blocked the number. Later, while Mason was playing video games, the ones they already owned, not the expensive system that still sat untouched in its box, Garrison's phone rang. Delia Arrow. "Garrison, I thought you should know. Kendra just came by my house." Delia's voice was tight with anger. "She threatened to sue me for interfering in her relationship with Mason." "Did you record it?" "I have a doorbell camera." "So yes, it's all there, including the part where she called me a meddling old bitch and said I regret taking your side." "Send me the footage," Garrison said, and called the police to file a report. Already done. After hanging up, Garrison sat heavily on the couch. Mason looked up from his game. "Dad, is everything okay?" Garrison managed to smile. "Everything's fine, buddy. Just grown-up stuff." Mason paused his game. "Is it about me going to live with you?" "Yes. Mom called me earlier," Mason said quietly. "On the house phone while you were in the garage." Garrison sat up straighter. "What did she say?" "That I need to tell the judge I want to stay with her. That you trying to take me away because you jealous of Royce." Mason looked down at his controller. "She said if I do not, you might go to jail for lying." Cold anger washed through Garrison. "That's not true, Mason." "None of it." "I know." Mason's voice was small but certain. "Mom lies sometimes. Especially when she's mad." Garrison moved to sit beside his son. "The judge just wants to know the truth. Whatever you tell them, whatever you really feel is the right answer." Mason nodded. "I want to live here with you." "I want that too." Garrison put his arm around his son's shoulders. "Now finish your game. Then we need to get your backpack ready for school tomorrow." That night, after Mason went to bed, Garrison sat at his desk, updating his documentation. He added notes about Royce's text, Kendra's visit to Delia, and the call to Mason. Each piece of evidence strengthened his case that he'd been preparing for this moment for months. Collecting information like a spider building a web. Patient. Methodical. Every inappropriate comment from Royce. Every missed school event from Kendra. Every time Mason came home hungry or tired or confused, all documented with dates, times, and witnesses when possible. The flash drive in Mason's birthday box contained it all, organized, and irrefutable. Garrison had copies, backups, and backups. He'd been a machinist long enough to know that precision and preparation were everything. There was a soft knock at his office door. Mason stood there in pajamas, hugging his space encyclopedia. "Ca not sleep?" Garrison asked. Mason shook his head. "I had a bad dream." "Want to talk about it?" Mom and Royce were yelling, like they do sometimes at the apartment. Mason clutched his book tighter. "Can I stay in here for a while?" "Of course." Garrison cleared a space on the small office couch. "Wanting to read to you," Mason nodded, settling onto the couch with his book. "The chapter on black holes. It's scary but cool." Garrison joined his son, taking the book and finding the right page. He began to read, his deep voice steady and calm as he explained the mysteries of collapsed stars and event horizons. Within minutes, Mason's eyelids grew heavy. By the time Garrison finished the chapter, his son was asleep, breathing softly against his side. Carefully, Garrison lifted Mason and carried him back to bed. As he tucked the blankets around his sleeping son, Garrison made a silent promise. This would be the last night Mason would have to fear going back to that apartment. Monday morning brought rain, heavy drops that pelted the windows and turned the world gray. Garrison drove Mason to school, wipers slapping against the downpour. "Remember, straight to Deal is after school," Garrison said as they pulled up to the drop-off lane. "I have a meeting with Ms. Wistrom, but I'll pick you up by 5. I know that Mason gathered his backpack. Can we work on a rocket tonight?" "Absolutely." Garrison reached over to straighten Mason's jacket collar. "Have a good day. Focus on your work, not tomorrow." Mason nodded solemnly. "I'll try." As his son joined the line of children heading inside, Garrison noticed a familiar car parked across the street. Kendra's blue sedan. She never brought Mason to school. That had always been Garrison's job. Even after the separation that he waited, watching as Mason disappeared safely into the building, then he pulled out of the line and parked near the school office. Inside, he found the principal, Dr. Harper, just arriving at her desk. "Mr. Cole," she said, looking up in surprise, "what can I do for you?" "My ex-wife is parked outside the school." Garrison said without preamble, "We have a custody hearing tomorrow. I'm concerned she might try to remove Mason from school today." Dr. Harper's expression turned serious. I see. Do you have documentation of the current custody arrangement? Garrison placed a folder on her desk. Joint legal custody, physical custody with Ms. Dunham. But there's an emergency hearing tomorrow that may change that. He pulled out another document. This is a notice from my attorney advising the school of the situation. The principal reviewed the papers, then nodded. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'll alert Mason's teacher and the front office staff. No one will release him to Ms. Dunham today without calling you first. Thank you. Garrison turned to leave, then paused. Dr. Harper, has Mason seemed different to you lately? Since living with his mother. The principal hesitated. I'm not supposed to take sides in custody matters. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking about my son's well-being. Dr. Harper sighed. He's been more withdrawn. His grades have slipped in a last marking period, and he's fallen asleep in class twice, something that never happened before. Garrison nodded, taking in the information. Thank you for your honesty. Mr. Cole. Dr. Harper called as he reached the door. For what it's worth, Mason lights up on the days you pick him up. Anyone with eyes can see that. Outside, Kendra's car was gone. Garrison drove to work, his mind turning over possibilities, preparing for contingencies. If Kendra tried to take Mason, if she contested the evidence, if she brought character witnesses against him, he had responses planned for every scenario. Were preceded as usual. Metal shaped under his hands, precise and predictable. He kept his phone nearby, checking it between tasks, but there were no calls from the school. At 4. He left to meet with Angela one last time before the hearing. Her office was warm against the continuing rain. We've had a development, she said as soon as he sat down. Kendra has hired Francis Lawton. Garrison recognized the name. A high-profile divorce attorney, known for aggressive tactics. Can we afford to counter him? He asked. Angela smiled thinly. We do not need to outspend him. We just need to outthink him. She pushed a document across her desk. I filed a motion to introduce Delia Rowe's doorbell camera footage. Judge Henderson granted it this afternoon. Garrison nodded, scanning the document. What's our strategy? Simple truth. We present the evidence chronologically. Show the pattern of behavior. Angela leaned back in her chair. Lawton will try to paint you as controlling obsessive. He'll say the recordings were illegal or taken out of context. In our counter, we have multiple witnesses, not just recordings. Teachers, neighbors, even Tyrell's statement about what Kendra said at the bar. Angela fixed him with a steady gaze. The most important thing is to stay calm. No matter what they say, no matter how personal the attacks get, you must remain composed. I understand. Good. Now, have you spoken with Mason about tomorrow? Yes. He knows he may need to talk to the judge. He says he's ready. Angela nodded. Children his age are typically interviewed in chambers, not in open court. Judge Henderson is good with kids. He'll make Mason comfortable. As they wrapped up the meeting, Garrison's phone rang. Delia Rowe. Hello, Garrison. Delia's voice was tight. Kendra, I just tried to pick up Mason from my house. I would not let her in. She's sitting in her car outside my house right now. Garrison was already standing, gathering his things. Is Mason okay? Yes, he's inside with me. Door's locked, but she's been out there for 20 minutes just watching the house. I'm on my way. Call the police if she tries to enter. Already did. They resending someone. Garrison ended the call looking at Angela. Kendra's at Delia's house, trying to get Mason. The attorney frowned. That's not a good move on her part. Go. Document everything. The drive to Delia's took 15 minutes through rain-slick streets. When Garrison arrived, a police car was already parked out front, and an officer was speaking to Kendra beside her car. Garrison parked and approached slowly, keeping his expression neutral. The officer looked up as he approached. Mr. Cole. I'm Officer Brennan. MS. Dunham says she's here to pick up her son. We have a custody hearing tomorrow. Garrison explained calmly. Mason was scheduled to stay with me tonight, as agreed last week. Kendra's makeup was smeared from rain or tears. He's my son. I have primary custody. MS. Dunham, the officer said firmly, according to the custody agreement you showed me, today is Mr. Cole's scheduled time with your son. Unless you have a court order stating otherwise, he has every right to have a child tonight. This is bullshit, Kendra hissed. Garrison's poisoning everyone against me. Even the cops. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to lower your voice and calm down. Officer Brennan said Garrison looked past them to deal with his house, where Mason's face appeared briefly in a window. The boy looked scared. Kendra, Garrison said quietly. You re-upsetting Mason. This is not helping your case. Do not tell me what helped my case. Kendra took a step toward him, but the officer moved between them. That's enough, MS. Dunham. I suggest you leave now, before this situation escalates further. Kendra glared at Garrison. This is not over. No, Garrison agreed. It's not. We'll settle it in court tomorrow. After a few more tense words with the officer, Kendra got back in her car and drove away. Officer Brennan turned to Garrison. Sir, do you feel unsafe? Should we be concerned about further escalation? I do not think she'll be physically violent, Garrison said. But I'm concerned about her trying to take Mason again. The officer nodded. We'll do an extra patrol around your home tonight. And I'll file a report about this incident that you can reference in court tomorrow, if needed. After the officer left, Garrison went to deal with his front door. She let him in, and Mason immediately ran to him, wrapping his arms around his waist. Dad, Mom was yelling outside. She said I have to go with her. Garrison hugged his son. It's okay. You staying with me tonight, just like we planned. Delia shook her head. She was like a different person, Garrison. I've never seen her so angry. She's desperate, Garrison said simply. She knows what's coming. Later at home, Garrison made Mason's favorite dinner, grilled cheese and tomato soup. They worked on a model rocket afterward, a welcome distraction from the day's events. Dad, Mason asked as they were fitting small pieces together. What if the judge says I have to stay with Mom? Garrison set down his work and looked at his son directly. Then we'll follow the judge's orders. But I'll never stop trying to bring you home. That I promise. Mason seemed to accept this. They continued working in comfortable silence until bedtime. After Mason was asleep, Garrison sat at his kitchen table reviewing the evidence one last time. Everything was in order. The documentation was thorough. The witnesses were prepared. And yet, doubt crept in. Courts traditionally favored mothers. What if the judge did not see what was so obvious to him? What if Kendra's expensive attorney twisted the evidence? Painted Garrison as obsessive rather than protective. His phone buzzed with a text from Tyrell. All set for tomorrow. Got your back. Another came from Delia. Mason will be fine. Truth is on our side. Garrison set the phone down and took a deep breath. He'd done everything possible to prepare. Now it was time to trust the process. Trust that the evidence would speak for itself. Tomorrow would change everything. Judge Emmett Henderson's courtroom was smaller than Garrison had imagined. Dark wood paneling. The Kentucky state flag beside the American one. The judge's bench raised slightly above the rest of the room. Garrison sat beside Angela Wistrom at the plaintiff's table. His posture straight, hands folded in front of him. His only suit and navy blue one he'd bought for his grandfather's funeral felt slightly tight across the shoulders. Across the aisle, Kendra sat with Francis Lawton, a silver-haired man in an expensive suit. Kendra wore a conservative dress. Her hair pulled back neatly. Looking every inch, the devoted mother a stark contrast to her appearance outside Delia's house the day before. Mason waited in another room with a court-appointed advocate. The judge would speak with him privately before making a decision. All rise. The bailiff announced as Judge Henderson entered. The judge was an older man with dark skin and silver-rimmed glasses. He moved with deliberate precision, arranging his papers before looking out at the courtroom. "Be seated," he said. "This is case number FC 2023-0487, Cole vs. Dunham. Regarding modification of custody from minor child Mason Cole, age 10, he looked between the two tables. I understand emotions run high in these cases, but I expect civility and respect in my courtroom. Is that clear?" Both attorneys murmured agreement. Good. Ms. Wistrom, as the filing party, please present your case. Angela stood. Your Honor, we seeking to modify the current custody arrangement to grant primary physical custody to Garrison Cole with supervised visitation for Kendra Dunham. She walked forward with a thick folder. We have documented a pattern of emotional neglect, inappropriate behavior, and unstable living conditions in Ms. Dunham's home. For the next hour, Angela methodically presented their evidence. School reports showing Mason's declining grades and increased absences under Kendra's care. Testimony from his teacher about Mason coming to school tired and unprepared. Financial records showing Kendra's unstable employment history versus Garrison's steady job of 15 years, then came to recordings. Audio of Kendra at O'Malley's bar complaining about the burden of motherhood. Video from Delia's doorbell camera showing Kendra's erratic behavior. Footage of Royce belittling Mason at a school event, calling him a mama's boy for crying after falling. Throughout it all, Garrison kept his eyes forward, his expression neutral. From his peripheral vision, he could see Kendra growing increasingly agitated, whispering furiously to her attorney. When Angela presented footage from the birthday party, Royce's stepdad comment, "Kendra's, this is your place to humiliation," Kendra finally erupted. "This is all taken out of context," she burst out. "He's editing these clips to make me look bad." Ms. Dunham, Judge Henderson said sternly, "You will have your opportunity to speak. For now, I suggest you control yourself." Kendra subsided, glaring at Garrison, who did not meet her gaze. Angela concluded by presenting statement from Tyrell, Delia, and several other witnesses. Your Honor, Mr. Cole has provided a stable, nurturing environment for Mason throughout his life. He has never missed a school conference, a doctor's appointment, or a parent-teacher meeting. He seeks full custody, not out of spite, but out of genuine concern for his son's well-being. Francis Lawton rose for his rebuttal, tall and imposing. He buttoned his suit jacket with practiced ease. Your Honor, what we've seen today is not evidence of neglect, but evidence of a controlling, obsessive father who cannot accept that his marriage has ended. Lawton paced slowly before the bench. Mr. Cole has engaged in systematic surveillance of my client. He has recorded her without consent, turned her friends against her, and orchestrated public humiliation at what should have been a joyous occasion, a child's birthday party. He went on to paint Garrison as cold, rigid, and emotionally unavailable. He described Kendra as a loving mother, doing her best under difficult circumstances. Are there challenges in Ms. Dunham's home? Of course. Show me a household without them. But rather than communicate his concerns like an adult, Mr. Cole chose to build a case in secret, storing up grievances until he could deploy them for maximum damage. When Lawton finished, Judge Henderson adjusted his glasses. I'd like to hear from the parents directly. He looked at Garrison. Mr. Cole, please approach. Garrison rose and walked to the witness stand. After being sworn in, he sat with his hands resting lightly on his knees. Mr. Cole, the judge said, in your own words, why are you seeking custody of your son? Garrison met the judge's gaze directly, because he needs stability, Your Honor, structure, a home where he feels safe and valued. And you do not believe he has that with his mother? No, sir. Garrison's voice remained steady. Since moving in with Ms. Dunham and Mr. Madden, Mason's grades have fallen. He's often tired, hungry, or emotionally distressed. He's described arguments in the home, instances where he felt ignored or belittled. Some might say you just angry about the divorce. About Ms. Dunham's new relationship. I would not pretend I'm happy about how things ended, Garrison admitted. But this is not about me or my feelings. It's about Mason's welfare. Lawton stood for cross-examination. Mr. Cole, is not it true that you've been recording Ms. Dunham and her associates for months? I've documented incidents relevant to my son's well-being, Garrison replied. Some might call that stalking, sir. Angela objected, and the judge sustained. Lawton tried a different angle. Mr. Cole, how many hours do you work each week? 40 to 45. And who watches Mason when you re-working? When Mason stays with me, I arrange my schedule around his school hours. If needed, my neighbor Delia Rowe helps, or he attends the after-school program. So you rely on others for childcare, just as Ms. Dunham does. The difference, Garrison said evenly, is that Mason knows where he stands with me. He knows he comes first. After several more questions, Garrison was dismissed. Kendra took the stand next, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Ms. Dunham, Judge Henderson began, your ex-husband has presented concerning evidence about your home environment. How do you respond? Kendra leaned forward earnestly. Your Honor, Garrison has always been controlling. When we were married, everything had to be his way to house, our schedules, even how I dressed. When I finally found the courage to leave, he could not handle it. And the recordings? The statements from teachers about Mason's declining performance. Taken out of context, Kendra insisted. Mason is adjusting to a new situation. That takes time. And Garrison has been undermining me at every turn, making Mason feel torn between us. Angela's cross-examination was precise. Ms. Dunham, in the past 6 months, how many of Mason's parent-teacher conferences have you attended? Kendra hesitated. I'm not sure. 1 or 2, the records show 0, Ms. Dunham. Angela held up a document. Mr. Cole attended all 4. Alone, I was working, and the pediatrician appointments. Another hesitation. Garrison usually handled those. In fact, Angela continued. Mr. Cole has handled all medical appointments, school meetings, and extracurricular activities since your separation. Is that correct? He likes to control things, Kendra insisted. He does not give me a chance. Ms. Dunham, is it true that you refer to Mason as, and I quote, Garrison's problem, not mine while at O'Malley's bar on April 17th? Kendra's face flushed. I was blowing off steam. Everyone says things they do not mean sometimes. After Kendra stepped down, the judge called for a recess. I'll be speaking with Mason in my chambers. We'll reconvene in 1 hour. As people filtered out of the courtroom, Garrison remained seated, staring straight ahead. He did not look at Kendra. Did not acknowledge Lawton's contemplative glances. You did well. Angela said quietly. Very composed. Garrison nodded once. Well, they let me see Mason before he talks to the judge. I've arranged for a brief visit. Come on. They were led to a small conference room where Mason sat with his court advocate, a kind-faced woman named Ms. Winters. Mason jumped up when Garrison entered. Garrison hugged his son tightly. Hey, buddy. Is it over? Do we know yet? Not yet. The judge wants to talk to you. Mason's face grew serious. What should I say? Garrison knelt to eye level with his son. Just tell the truth. That's all anyone wants from you. Will Mom be mad if I say I want to live with you? Your mom loves you. Garrison said carefully. She might be upset, but that's not your responsibility. You just worry about telling your truth. Mason nodded solemnly. I can do that. After a few more minutes, Ms. Winters led Mason away to meet with the judge. Garrison returned to the courtroom to wait, his mind racing with possibilities, contingencies. When court reconvened, Judge Henderson's expression gave nothing away. Mason was not brought back in. I've spoken with Mason. The judge began. He's a bright, articulate young man with clear opinions about his situation. He looked down at his notes. Having reviewed all evidence and testimony, I'm ready to render a decision in this case. Garrison felt his heart hammering in his chest. Beside him, Angela sat perfectly still. Primary physical custody of Mason Cole is hereby awarded to Garrison Cole, effective immediately. A small gasp escaped Kendra. Garrison remained motionless, hardly daring to believe. Ms. Dunham will have visitation every other weekend, supervised for the first 3 months by a court-appointed monitor. The judge continued outlining the details of the custody arrangement, including holiday schedules and decision-making authority. Additionally, the judge said, looking directly at Kendra, the court orders Ms. Dunham to attend parenting classes and undergo a psychological evaluation before unsupervised visitation will be considered. A side door opened, and Mason was led back into the courtroom by Ms. Winters. His eyes immediately found his father's. Garrison gave him a small nod, and Mason's face broke into a relieved smile. This court is adjourned. Judge Henderson declared, bringing down his gavel. Ms. Wistrom, please prepare the final order for my signature. As people began to move, Kendra stood abruptly. This is a mistake, she said loudly. You CA not take my son from me. Garrison, you CA not do this. Lawton took her arm, murmuring something in her ear, but she shook him off. Mason, she called. Tell them you want to stay with me. Tell them. Mason shrank back against Ms. Winters, who put a protective arm around him. Ms. Dunham, Judge Henderson, said sharply. Control yourself, or I will have you removed. Garrison finally turned to look at his ex-wife. Her face was contorted with rage and disbelief. For a moment, their eyes met, and Garrison felt nothing, no triumph, no pity, not even anger. Just a cool certainty that justice had been served. Come on, buddy. He said quietly to Mason, let us go home. In the weeks following the custody hearing, Garrison established a new routine with Mason. Mornings meant breakfast together before school, real breakfast with protein and fruit, not the sugary cereals Kendra had relied on. Afternoons were for homework at the kitchen table, with Garrison nearby working on household projects or preparing dinner. Evenings, they built models together, read books, or sometimes just watched documentaries on space or engineering. Mason's science teacher reported improvement. His math scores began to climb back to their previous levels. That Kendra's first supervised visit was tense. The court-appointed monitor, Mrs. Geller, arrived at Garrison's house 10 minutes before Kendra was due. I'll be present throughout the visit, she explained, reviewing paperwork at Garrison's kitchen table. My role is to ensure appropriate interaction between Ms. Dunham and Mason, not to intrude unnecessarily. Garrison nodded. I will not be here. I've arranged to run errands, give them privacy. That's considerate, Mr. Cole. Mrs. Geller studied him. Many parents in your position would want to hover. This is not about me, Garrison said simply. When Kendra arrived, Garrison was already preparing to leave. She looked smaller somehow, dressed in plain jeans, in a sweater rather than her usual stylish outfits. Her eyes were puffy, with dark shadows beneath them. 6 hours, Garrison reminded her, not unkindly. I'll be back by 4. Kendra would not meet his gaze. Fine. Mason came downstairs, approaching his mother cautiously. Hi, Mom. Baby, Kendra pulled him into a crushing hug. I missed you so much. Garrison slipped out, leaving them to their reunion under Mrs. Geller's watchful, but he drove first to the hardware store, then to Tyrell's house to help with a plumbing issue. Keeping his hands busy helped quiet his mind. How's it going with Mason? Tyrell asked as they worked under his kitchen sink. Better every day, Garrison replied, tightening a connection. He's sleeping through the night now. No more nightmares. And Kendra, she's staying in line. First supervised visit is happening now. Garrison focused on the pipe joint, avoiding his friend's gaze. She lost her job at the bank. Downsized, apparently. Tyrell snorted. Right. Nothing to do with her meltdown at the birthday party going viral in the neighborhood. Word had indeed spread quickly after the custody hearing. Kendra's behavior at the party, combined with the judge's ruling, had become gossip fodder throughout their social circle. Several of her friends had distanced themselves, not wanting to be associated with the scandal. "What about Royce?" Tyrell asked. "He's still in the picture." Garrison shrugged. "Do not know. Do not care as long as he stays away from Mason." But that was not entirely true. Through the local grapevine, Garrison had heard that Royce had been fired from a gym after parents complained about his behavior toward Mason. Apparently, the gym owner had received several calls referring to Royce as that guy who bullies children after dealing his video circulated among concerned neighbors. When Garrison returned home at exactly 4:00, he found Mason showing Mrs. Geller his model rocket, while Kendra sat stiffly on the couch. "Dad," Mason looked up brightly. "Mom brought me a new space book." "That's great, buddy." Garrison nodded to Mrs. Geller. "Everything go okay?" "Just fine." The monitor confirmed, making a final note on her clipboard. "I'll find my report with the court." Kendra stood, gathering her purse. Her movements were jerky, like a puppet with tangled strings. "Mason, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Remember what we talked about?" Mason's smile faltered slightly. "Okay, Mom." After Kendra and Mrs. Geller left, Garrison looked at his son. "What did she mean? What did you talk about?" Mason kicked at the carpet. "She wanted me to tell the judge I miss her and want to go back. She said, if I do, we could move to a bigger apartment and I could have a dog." Garrison absorbed this. "And what do you think about that?" "I do not want to go back." Mason looked up, his eyes clear and direct. "I like it here." "With you," Garrison nodded once. "I like having you here too." 2 days later, Garrison received a call from Angela Wistrom. "There's been a development," she said, without preamble. "Royce man was arrested last night for assaulting Kendra." Garrison sat down heavily. "What happened?" "Apparently, they had a fight at her apartment. Neighbors called the police. She has a restraining order against them now." "Is she okay?" "Minor injuries, according to the report." "But Garrison, there's more." Angela paused. "Kendra told the police that Royce has been verbally abusive to Mason in the past. She's claiming she did not report it because she was afraid of him." "That's convenient," Garrison said flatly. "Now that she's lost custody, it gets worse. She's using this as grounds to petition for reconsideration of the custody ruling, claiming she's a domestic violence victim who deserves another chance." "Will the judge buy it?" "Unlikely," Angela assured him. "Judge Henderson is not easily manipulated. But I wanted you to be prepared if Kendra tries to spin this new narrative with Mason." After hanging up, Garrison wandered into the backyard. The evening air was cool, carrying the scent of early autumn. He stood looking at the oak tree where Mason's birthday party had been held, remembering the moment everything had changed. Inside, Mason was practicing piano, something he'd asked to learn after moving back home. The simple melodies drifted through the open window, sometimes halting, sometimes flowing smoothly. Garrison closed his eyes, letting the sounds wash over him. For the first time in years, his home felt complete. The constant tension in his shoulders had begun to ease. The vigilant part of his mind, always watching, documenting, preparing, had quieted somewhat. Not entirely. Never entirely. But enough to breathe. The piano stopped. Footsteps approached. That Mason appeared in the doorway. Delia called. "She wants to know if we can come over for lemon pie tomorrow." Garrison smiled. "Tell her yes." After your homework, the fallout continued to ripple through their community. Kendra's petition for reconsideration was denied, with Judge Henderson noting that convenient timing does not transform facts. The supervised visitations continued. Though Mason reported that his mother seemed different, subdued, sometimes distracted. 3 weeks after the arrest, Tyrell brought news from the gym where he worked out. "Royce is gone," he reported as they watched Mason and Tyrell's daughter, Amara, playing basketball in the driveway. Left town, apparently. He could not get another training job after word got around. Good, Garrison said simply. And Kendra's moving too. Did you know that? Garrison turned to his friend. Moving where? Her cousin's place in Indianapolis. Lost her apartment after the bank let her go. Tyrell watched Garrison's face carefully. You okay with that? Her being that far from Mason? Garrison considered the question. Part of him, the part that had documented every slight, every neglect, wanted to say yes. Wanted to feel satisfaction at Kendra's downfall. But another part, the part that was Mason's father, knew the truth was more complicated. Mason needs his mother, he said, finally. Even if she's flawed, distance will make that harder. Tyrell nodded slowly. You're a better man than me, Cole. I'd be celebrating. No. Garrison corrected. I'm just thinking about Mason. The news of Kendra's planned move came officially through her attorney the following week. She was requesting a modification to the visitation schedule, proposing longer but less frequent visits due to the distance. Garrison and Angela discussed the options. You could fight this, Angela advised. Argue that her moving violates the spirit of the custody agreement. Garrison shook his head. Let her go. We'll adjust. Are you sure? This is a major change. I'm sure. Garrison looked out the window of Angela's office, where rain streaked the glass. Mason deserves stability. If Kendra needs to start over somewhere else, that's her business. We'll make the visitation work. When Garrison told Mason about his mother's plans to move, his son was quiet for a long time. While I still see her, he finally asked. Of course. Less often, but for longer visits. Maybe a week in the summer. Spring break. Mason nodded, processing this. Is she moving because of me? Because I wanted to live with you. No, buddy. Garrison sat beside his son on the couch. Your mom made choices. So did Royce. So did I. All of those choices had consequences. None of them are your fault. Do you hate her? Mason asked suddenly. Mom, the question caught Garrison off guard. He considered it carefully before answering. No, he said finally. I do not hate her. I do not trust her. I do not forgive what she did to you. But hate takes energy I'd rather spend elsewhere. Mason seemed satisfied with this answer. He leaned against his father's side. I'm glad I'm home. Garrison put his arm around his son's shoulders. Me too, buddy. Me too. 6 months passed. Winter settled over Louisville. Then gave way to a tentative spring. Mason thrived in Garrison's care. His grades returning to their previous excellence. His nightmares fading to rare occurrences rather than nightly events. Kendra's move to Indianapolis had been completed in late November. Her supervised visits had transitioned to 1 weekend per month, with Mason traveling by bus to stay with her at her cousin's apartment. Each time Garrison prepared his son carefully, packing his favorite books and snacks, reviewing emergency contact information. Each time Mason returned with stories that painted a grim picture of Kendra's new life. The cousin was often absent. The apartment was small, with Mason sleeping on a pull-out couch. Kendra worked out hours at a retail job, leaving Mason alone more often than the court would have approved if they'd known. But Garrison did not interfere. He listened, documented in case things worsened, but allowed Mason to maintain the relationship with his mother. It was not ideal, but it was better than the chaos of before it got on a warm Saturday in April. Garrison was teaching Mason how to change the oil in the truck when his phone rang. An Indianapolis number he did not recognize. Hello, Mr. Cole. This is Officer Merritt with Indianapolis Police. I'm calling about your ex-wife, Kendra Dunham. Garrison straightened, wiping his hands on a rag. Is everything all right? She's been arrested, sir. Shoplifting and possession of prescription drugs, not in her name. Garrison closed his eyes briefly. Is my son with her? No, sir. According to Ms. Dunham, he's with you currently. That's correct. Relief washed through him. What happens now? That's up to the prosecutor. But she asked us to contact you. Said you might be willing to help with bail. Garrison was silent for a moment, watching Mason carefully measure oil into a container. I'll need to think about that, he said finally. Can I call you back? After getting the officer's direct line, Garrison hung up and rejoined his son. They finished the oil change together, with Mason asking questions about engines and maintenance that Garrison answered patiently. Later, after Mason was in bed, Garrison sat at his kitchen table with a cup of coffee, turning the situation over in his mind. Kendra had made her choices. She was facing the consequences. He owed her nothing. And yet, she was Mason's mother. What would it do to his son to learn that his mother was in jail, that his father had refused to help? Garrison picked up his phone and called the number the officer had given him. I'll pay the bail, he said when Officer Merritt answered. Under one condition. The condition was simple. Kendra would agree to enter a treatment program for the apparent drug issue. Garrison would not mention the arrest to Mason unless forced to giving Kendra a chance to address her problems. Privately. 2 days later, he received a text from an unfamiliar number. This is Kendra. New phone. They let me out this morning. Why are you helping me? Garrison typed back from Mason. Not for you. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, I'm starting the program tomorrow. 30 days inpatient. Can you tell Mason I'm away for work training? Yes. Another long pause. Then I messed up everything. Did not I? Garrison stared at the message. There were 1,000 things he could say, angry things, righteous things. But in the end, he typed only focus on getting better. Mason needs a healthy mother. Kendra did not respond further. Garrison put down his phone and went to check on Mason, who was asleep with a space book open on his chest. Garrison carefully removed the book, marked the page and pulled the blanket up over his son's shoulders. In the soft light from the hallway. Mason's face looked peaceful, untroubled. Garrison stood watching him breathe for a moment, then quietly closed the door. The weeks passed. Spring bloomed fully, bringing baseball practices and science fairs. Garrison told Mason that his mother was away for work training, just as he promised Kendra. Mason accepted this with a nod, asking few questions. 30 days came and went. No word from Kendra. Garrison did not press, focusing instead on Mason's upcoming science fair project, a demonstration of magnetic levitation that they worked on each evening after dinner. Then 6 weeks after her arrest, Kendra called. I completed the program. She said, her voice stronger than the last time they'd spoken. And I'm in outpatient therapy now. 3 times a week. Good, Garrison said. That's good. I also got a new job. Office work, regular hours. She paused. I'd like to see Mason. Whenever you think it's appropriate. Garrison considered this. Let's give it another month. Show me you can stay on track. Then we'll discuss it. You do not trust me, Kendra said. Not as an accusation, but as a statement of fact. No, Garrison agreed. I do not. I would not trust me either. She admitted there was a new quality to her voice. A humility Garrison had never heard before. But I'm trying, Garrison, really trying this time for Mason's sake. I hope so. Before hanging up, Kendra asked hesitantly. How is he really? Garrison looked out the window to where Mason was setting up his science project in the backyard, meticulously aligning magnets. He's good. Garrison said truthfully, doing well in school, made the junior baseball team, building a maglev train for the science fair. He always was smart. Kendra said softly, like you. After the call ended, Garrison joined Mason in the backyard. The maglev prototype was coming along well, with a small metal car hovering shakily above a track of carefully arranged magnets. Looked at Mason, exclaimed. It's working. Garrison knelt beside his son, examining the project. Excellent work on the polarization. Very precise. Mason beamed the praise. Do you think I'll win? Whether you win or not. You've built something remarkable. Garrison said. That's what matters. Mason considered this, then nodded. Yeah, the building part is the best anyway. That evening, they sat on the front porch swing, watching fireflies emerge in the gathering dusk. Delia row away from her garden next door, where she was planting spring flowers. Tyrell and Amara rode by on bicycles, calling out greetings. That Mason said after a comfortable silence. I had a good day today. Garrison smiled, a genuine, unguarded expression that was becoming more frequent these past months. Me too, buddy. Do we have to talk about Mom now? Mason asked, his intuition as sharp as ever. Only if you want to. Mason was quiet for a moment, gently pushing the swing with his feet. Maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow works. Garrison agreed. They stayed on the porch until the stars emerged. Mason pointing out constellations from his astronomy book. The night was peaceful. The neighborhood quiet except for distant laughter and the chirp of crickets. Garrison felt the last hard knot in his chest begin to loosen, not dissolving completely. Some vigilance would always remain, but transforming into something less rigid, more open to possibility. The greatest victory was not in Kendra's downfall or in the court's decision. It was not even in bringing Mason home, though that was precious beyond measure. The real victory was in this moment, his son beside him, secure and thriving, looking toward the stars instead of hiding for shadows. 1 year later, Garrison stood in his backyard beside a picnic table laden with food. Blue and green balloons, still Mason's favorite colors, bobbed on gentle breezes. A banner reading, "Happy 11th Birthday," Mason hung between two trees. This year's party was smaller, more intimate. Just the people who truly mattered in Mason's life. Delia Rowe arranged chips and dip on a platter. Tyrell manned the grill, flipping burgers with theatrical flourishes that made the children laugh. Mason and Amara played basketball with a few classmates, their shouts and laughter filling the yard. And off to one side, sitting somewhat awkwardly in a lawn chair, was Kendra. She looked different now. The flashy clothes and excessive makeup were gone, replaced by simple jeans and a blouse. Her hair was its natural brown instead of the bleached blonde she favored before. Most striking was the change in her eyes, clearer. More present. 8 months of sobriety had transformed her. The outpatient therapy had continued longer than mandated by the court. The new job had become a stable career track with benefits. The cousin's apartment had been replaced by a small but tidy place of her own. The supervised visitation had eventually transitioned to regular weekend visits once a month with phone calls in between. Mason approached these visits with cautious optimism rather than dread. Garrison had not forgiven Kendra for what she'd done, but he had acknowledged her efforts to change to be better for their son. It was not friendship. It would never be trust. But it was a functional co-parenting relationship built on clear boundaries and Mason's best interests. Royce was long gone, having moved to Florida after being unable to rebuild his reputation in Kentucky. No one mentioned his name anymore. Cake time. Delia called, bringing out the space-themed cake of tradition they maintained. Mason ran over, his face flushed with exertion and happiness. It looks awesome. Garrison lit the 11 candles as everyone gathered around. Mason caught his eye across the flickering flames and smiled a smile without shadows, without fear. After the singing and the wish and the cake, it was time for presents. Mason opened each one with genuine enthusiasm, thanking each giver personally. A telescope from Delia. Sports equipment from Tyrell and Amara. Books and games from classmates. Kendra's gift was a tablet for reading and homework, practical, thoughtful within her means. Mom, this is great. Thanks. Mason hugged her, and she hugged him back. Something careful and hopeful in her expression. Garrison's gift was last a wooden box he made himself, with Mason's name carved on the lid. What's inside? Mason asked, running his fingers over the smooth wood. Open it, Garrison prompted. Inside was a set of precision tools, small screwdrivers, calipers, measuring instruments, each nestled in a custom-cut foam insert. Your own tool set, Garrison explained. For your models and projects. Mason's eyes widened. Just like yours. Just like mine, Garrison confirmed. And there's one more thing underneath. Mason lifted the foam insert to reveal an envelope at the bottom of the box. He opened it curiously, pulling out a certificate. Junior engineering camp at the university this summer, Garrison explained. 2 weeks of building and designing with other kids who love science. That Mason threw his arms around Garrison's neck. This is the best present ever. As the party continued, Garrison moved about the yard, making sure everyone had what they needed. He stopped beside Kendra, who was watching Mason explain his new tools to his friends. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for letting me be here." Garrison nodded once, acknowledging without warming. "He wanted you here. That's what matters." Kendra looked at him directly. "I know you'll never forgive me. I do not expect you to. But I want you to know that I see it now what a good father you've always been. How much he needs you." Garrison said nothing. Some truths did not need his confirmation. "I'm still his mother," Kendra continued. "I always will be. But you're his home, Garrison. You always have been." She walked away then, joining a conversation with Delia about the flowers blooming along the fence line. Later, as guests began to leave, Mason sat on the porch steps with his father, the wooden toolbox open beside him. "Hey, Dad, remember last year's party with the custody papers and everything?" "Yes," Garrison said simply, "I knew something was going to happen." Mason confessed. "I saw you putting all those folders together at night. Heard you talking to Ms. Wistrom on the phone sometimes." Garrison looked at his son with newfound respect. "You never said anything. I knew you were working on something important." Mason picked up one of his new tools, turning it over in his hands. "Like when you making a special part of work, you get this look on your face like you seeing something no one else can see yet." Garrison smiled slightly. "Smart kid, Mom's better now." Mason observed watching Kendra help Delia gather her things. "Not like before." "Yes," Garrison agreed. "She's trying. But I still live with you. That would not change, right?" "That would not change unless you wanted to." Mason nodded satisfied. "Good." He carefully replaced the tool in its designated spot. "Because this is home." The simplicity of a statement, its absolute certainty filled Garrison with quiet pride. That evening, after everyone had gone and Mason was in bed, Garrison sat at his workbench in the garage. The recording devices and evidence folders were long gone. Replaced by projects they worked on together, a half-finished birdhouse, plans for a treehouse, the beginnings of a remote control car. He ran his hand over the smooth wood of the workbench, feeling the small nicks and scratches that told the story of years of careful work. Work that had shaped metal and wood, yes, but more importantly, had shaped a life for his son, a safe place, a home. The house was quiet now, peaceful in a way it had not been a year ago. Upstairs, Mason slept soundly, surrounded by his books and models, and the new tools that symbolized the skills Garrison had passed to him: precision, patience, the ability to build something solid that would last. Outside, spring stars shone in a clear sky. The same stars Mason studied in his astronomy books. The same stars they would continue to observe together year after year, as Mason grew from boy to man. Garrison had never been a man of many words, had never needed them. His actions had always spoken clearly enough, and his most important creation was not made of metal or wood. It was the life he built for his son, a life founded on strength, not weakness, on vigilance, not surrender, on love, unyielding his steel.